So I think I'm giving up on live streaming. I've been doing live streaming as part of my content creation habit for a few years now, and what I'm finding is that it might not be worth doing, at least not in this stage of my content creation career. So let's talk a little bit about why I'm giving up on live streaming. So I've been experimenting with doing live streams on both Twitch and YouTube for a while now, and I'm kind of finding some things, especially from a beginner's perspective, that make getting into doing live streaming a little bit challenging. Twitch, of course, has become very popular in the live streaming space, especially for video game live streaming. And YouTube, of course, is trying to compete with Twitch in that space. However, they also try to have more diverse content when it comes to what is live streamed on their platform. There are advantages and disadvantages to both platforms, but Twitch seems to have the advantage when it comes to basically the content creator economy and people creating content on Twitch. So why is live streaming attractive to content creators? Well, it's basically become the new cash cow, or at least perceived cash cow in the industry. Twitch has very diverse layers of content monetization, and as such, there's a lot of creators who basically have the perception that they're making bank on the platform. The problem with that is a lot of the content creators that are making a very attractive living off of the platform are a very small percentage of the people actually streaming on that platform. And this is common all over the internet. You have people who are just like, I make so much money off of this platform. And in the reality is that's a small percentage of people. And the reality is a lot of other people on that platform aren't making anything really. So one of the reasons I think I am going to basically stop trying to do live streaming is for a lot of different reasons. And I think the biggest reason is that barrier to entry. It's not hard to get a microphone and a webcam set up and then to start live streaming. There's also a lot of really great softwares like OBS that make it really easy, quote unquote, let's use quote unquote when I'm talking about OBS, to get started doing live streaming. However, that being said, just because you're starting on live stream does not necessarily you're building the audience that you think you're going to be building. What I have found is when you start to live stream and you don't have like a built-in audience already from other pieces of content creation that you don't have a base of people who are willing to tune in, and discoverability on certain platforms is not particularly great. Twitch probably has the advantage when it comes to discoverability, and they've implemented a lot of things to try and help smaller creators build followings and, allowing people to discover them. That being said, it's a very saturated market. YouTube, also not super great for discoverability for live streams. However, creating VOD content seems to be a good way for people to find you. So we'll kind of talk a little bit about that later. I think one of the most frustrating things I have with live streaming is definitely on the technical side. There's a lot of technical issues that you are going to run into throughout your early streaming journey. As I mentioned before, OBS is a great open source platform, but sometimes weird things just happen with the platform and you have to spend a lot of time fixing things. And I find that a lot of times when I fix one issue, I end up creating 3 more issues that need to get addressed. Eventually you get it right where you want it to be, but then maybe an update or something gets pushed and then everything changes and you have to figure it out again. Another problem I've been running into technically is the fact that some games don't run super stable on my PC. I'm currently running a Ryzen 5900X and a 3070. However, for whatever reason, games crash periodically with no rhyme or reason. And I've tried a lot of different things to troubleshoot those issues, but games crash midstream and it just makes for a bad viewing experience. And what I have found is that typically I get less crashes when I am not streaming, specifically because my PC is using up computing resources while I'm streaming. And then, of course, there's basically the expense of trying to get a certain quality of stream. Yeah, you can use a very simple webcam and a USB microphone and not spend a whole lot of money. However, there is sort of this feature creep that you have to do of having a nicer microphone, having a nicer camera, getting a stream deck, buying all these kind of different bits and bobs to try and improve the experience of your live streaming. I obviously spend a lot of money on gear, but that's also my job, so it makes a lot of sense for me to have more expensive equipment, but not everybody's going to be able to afford a $3,000 camera, a $200 microphone, a $150 interface, put the money into lights, and then also have, good experience actually doing these kinds of live streams. There's also the issue that I definitely have, and that's the personality issue. Being entertaining on camera live is not easy, and it being on is very, very hard. Again, this goes back to not having a built-in audience already. If you're not somebody who's used to addressing a chat or being able to just sit in a room and talk to yourself, especially when you're playing video games, not going to really work out all that well for you. What I find with myself is that a lot of times I end up playing video games that I've beaten before, so I don't have a lot of commentary to say. I don't have that reaction that kind of goes with things. When I'm playing online multiplayer games, typically all I'm doing is shouting profanities. God f***ing damn it, why the f*** did you do that? That's bull. This guy's clearly cheating. I hate you. I hate you so much. Again, like, that's not good content. That's just person screaming at their computer. Now, one of the reasons I got into streaming was to help develop that skill set, get used to being on camera, being used to more like talking to myself and talking to an audience. However, that's not something that people naturally do in their day-to-day lives. And again, if you're somebody who has more experience doing things like YouTube and other social media content creation, you maybe have a better feel for how to be on camera and talking during a live stream and everything else. But as for somebody who's coming in totally fresh, it is kind of really awkward, and it's something that you have to develop over time. Speaking of time, that's another issue. The amount of time you have to put into streaming to basically build any kind of audience is insane. Some of the biggest streamers have to stream basically for 8 to 10 hours a day just to see any kind of real return on investment. And for somebody like me who has their time and attention being pulled in so many different directions, I can't dedicate 4 hours a day to be live streaming. I can hop into Halo for a couple of rounds, I can play a mission in Baldur's Gate, I can do like small bits here and there, but in terms of like sitting at my computer 4 hours to live stream, that's time that I could be working on editing a project, that's time that I could be spent sending out proposals, that's time I could be spending with my wife. Having the kind of time to be successful at live streaming takes very specific kind of people and very specific kind of situations, and it's definitely not for everybody. Which gets us into another aspect of live streaming that makes me think that I should just not be putting my effort into it, and that's the subculture around live streaming. To say that there's some toxicity in the live streaming community, I think is very much an understatement, and I think I just don't resonate with that kind of audience very well. I think the people who do live streaming and are successful on it, you know, have certain kind of personality traits, which are definitely just not me. I'm not trying to say all Twitch streamers are toxic, horrible people, just that I don't necessarily know if I am part of that vibe, for lack of a better word. And so that's kind of just where I stand. I just don't know if it's worth doing live streaming anymore, because I'm nowhere near popular enough to actually start seeing a return on investment. I don't think it's necessarily the best avenue for me to build a brand and an audience personally, and I just don't think I have the time in order to build an audience on Twitch like that. And I think YouTube, I'm better off doing more VOD content, which brings me more to what I think I can do instead. One thing I can do is, instead of doing a 4-hour long live stream, I can do my normal rounds of Halo or Baldur's Gate or something, and just do VOD content where it's cut down and specifically put out in more kind of like gameplay footage. That's one, more evergreen, and two, it's more or less kind of like subjugating my kind of time in a better way. It also makes it to where I can just spend like my hour or two actually playing video games, cut the content down. And so by doing that, I spend the exact same amount of time playing video games, editing down the content, making what I think is a more compelling piece of content than I would be sitting at a computer trying to basically exert as much energy as I can into making a good stream. And this isn't to say that I won't do live streaming down the road. I need to spend more time building an audience through YouTube and other social media platforms that can then get transferred over to the live streaming side, as opposed to trying to build my audience for live streaming. It's very chicken or the egg. There are definitely people who have become successful at live streaming through live streaming, but I think for the most part, most people who end up being very successful at live streaming normally are coming from it from a popular YouTube channel, or they're coming from a like popularity influencer perspective on Instagram and other platforms. But tell me what you think. What do you think makes a successful live streamer, and what do you think are some of the qualities that they need to have in order to actually be successful in this space? Love to hear your ideas in the comments. I'm Aaron England, and I will talk to you guys next time.